Hello, welcome to Fixing It Blind. Just want to test this out real quick. All right, so what we got here today is we got a John Deere Gator. It is a TS. It's got the FE290. They also came with a 260, I believe. The rebuild process is very similar between the two. This is a, like I said, a 290 FE290D. D as in dog. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. So first thing you got to do is you got to pull the engine out of the Gator. This also is the same as a club car. So we're using some impact swivel sockets here. These things are phenomenal. And they're super cheap. So we're gonna go ahead and take the shroud off so we can get at the top end. Now we're not doing bearings and such in this. We're just doing, we're changing the rod. We're just doing the piston and rings in it and some seals. Make sure you disconnect the spark plug wire, pull that top shroud off. This shroud comes off afterwards. And you can take off this cover if you want. We don't need to because we're not pulling the crankshaft out. So we're going to use a pair of channel locks. Let's bend this up and out of the way a little bit. So we can, come on. Well, actually we're going to bend that down. What we're looking to do is just basically get it so we can get it out of here, get it off that stud. And then we can bend this back afterwards when we're going back together. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and just disconnect this rod so we don't bend it or lose it or anything. And you got this little spring. What the spring's for is it keeps tension on the rod to help prevent surging issues. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and turn it and pull off the valve cover. Let's see. Now the symptom that this engine has, there's two different things that can cause it. When it came in, it'll idle just fine, but it absolutely refused to come up off idle. And now these coils have a timing profile built in them based on the RPM. And sometimes that goes bad and you'll actually lose spark as soon as you get off idle. This one does not have that symptom. It maintains spark, but still dies. And so basically what I noticed is there's lack of suction through the carburetor. And when I put the compression tester on here, we're sitting at about 60 and we should be at about 140. So we're gonna go ahead and pull the head off, which is just these 6 bolts. Okay, And you can, you can leave the spark plug in there if you want. You don't have to take it out. Let's see. 12 or 13? 12. Head bolts are 12 millimeter. So just go ahead and zip these up. Yep, that's going to be loud for you guys. Sorry about that. Let's see. Sorry about that. I had to run over and grab a 12 mil. All right, so we just crack them loose. Now they are going to be tight. Sorry, I know you guys can't see the bottom ones, but there's one in the middle and one on each side of the bottom. If you guys got any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. Let me know. I do have a laptop set up next to me so I can read your messages and we can address any questions you might have. Okay, now all the head bolts, they're all the same size. So there's no need to worry about mixing them up. Now, I said earlier, you might have missed it, but this engine, it's a Kawasaki FE290D. The process is the same for a 260 as well. Now, these engines are found in club car golf carts, as well as John Deere Gator TSs, the two-wheel drive, single-cylinder Gators. So you can see they're all the same size. No need to worry about which order they go in, which location they go in. Come on, there we go. Now you're gonna want to be careful, right? Especially if you have to reuse this head gasket. We're not reusing it, we're putting a new one on. And then we've got the push rods. Now you do want to keep them, the intake for the intake and the exhaust for the exhaust, because these, let me set this head down over here. These balls ride in a little socket. So these ones ride down in the tappets and they wear in to each other. So now if we switch them, they're going to cause issues with excessive wear because they have to re-break into each other. So here we got the head gasket. You can see it's just a coated steel head gasket, just a single layer head gasket. You can see she's a little worn down here. but she's not blown out. Usually they'll blow out to one of these passages here. This one is not. One of the best tools for scraping gaskets. This is a gasket scraper. This is actually carbide, and it works really well. So what we want to do is we want to get these dowels out. And this piston is getting replaced as well as the rings. So need some pliers. Use some needle nose pliers to work these out. Now you do not want to make them oval. Oh, the other one must be stuck in the head. Sorry. Now the other one is stuck in the head here. That's what the head looks like. I already had this head off, and just to make sure I reground the valves to make sure that wasn't what was causing the low compression or the bent valve, and it had no effect on it. So now what we want to do, I like to bring the piston all the way to the top, and then we just kind of go across with the gasket scraper. And mind you, we're going to be opening up the crankcase to get this piston out and everything. So that's something you could definitely do at home. Save yourself some money. John Deere dealership, you know, they want about $700-800 for this. You can do it yourself for, you know, what, right around $200, give or take. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and tip her up on its side. Let's see if we can break these loose. Nope. Okay, so we're going to break all these case bolts loose. This is just for the side cover, but that'll give us access to the parts that we need to get that piston out. All right. If you got any questions, let me know. Again, this is a Kawasaki FE290 out of a John Deere Gator. They use this engine also in club car golf carts. And the symptom that we're trying to chase is it would idle just fine, it would start just fine, but it would not rev up. Couldn't, you know, they couldn't drive it ever. I like to loosen these and keep them all in the case still, just in case some are longer than the others. I don't believe they are on this one. Looks like they're all going to be the same size. Yep, they're all going to be the same size. So go ahead and set those aside. Pop the side cover off. Now, rubber mallet works a little nicer, but you can use the metal one as long as you aren't too hard on it. Basically, what we're trying to do right now is just jar it a little bit loose. And then right here, we can kind of get an upward motion. And same on this side. Because you're going to have those dowels in there. They'll look something like this, or they might even be just pins. And they'll get corroded in place. Okay, it sounds like she's getting loose. There we go. And grab your favorite pry driver. You can see this one's broken. This snap-on one, you know, nice cheap screwdriver. Just kind of work our way around. Oh, we have to take this out. There we go. We'll just go ahead and pull this off and stick this off to the side. All right. I want to keep some of this junk out of the engine. Just keep working it back and forth. Everything loose. What are we sticking on? It's just the crankshaft that's holding us up here. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. We're kind of getting away from the screen. It's just really, really tight around the crank there. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling up over here and pushing down with my thumb on the crank and then just tapping. There we go. And it's just that seal. Oh, don't do that. I think we lost the shim. All right, so this is what the underside looks like. This is your governor. As it spins faster, it goes out and tries to, these weights swing out, pushes this rod up, which then pushes right here, and that turns on your governor to limit the engine RPMs. All right, sounded like we lost a shim. There it is. Now, we may or may not reinstall this shim, okay? It just depends on what our end play is with the new gasket, okay? Because the gaskets sometimes are different. They vary, they're various thicknesses. I'll learn to talk one day. So we're gonna go ahead and pull this shim out. Just set this aside. Camshaft just pulls right out. Now here's how the decompression lever works. You see this flat spot? So it creates a bump on the exhaust valve. It just kind of bumps it open, and then when you start, give it some gas, or once it starts running, these spread out and it moves that out of the way. So we're gonna go ahead and set that off to the side. It's Kawasaki's famous plastic gears. Some people hate them. This thing's what, a 2000, man, I think it's like a 2004 or something like that, 2002, and it's lasted this long enough to wear out the piston and rings. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and turn her back this way, and what we're looking for now is we want to come on, turn. All right, so this is a counterbalance shaft, right? Or counterbalance weight to make it run smoother. On the end here, there is, let's move this over here. See, there's 4 bolts here to remove that center post. So hopefully we can get this out of here and get it out of our way. All right, again, keep those nuts together so we know where they go. I'm just gonna tap on her a little bit. There we go. You see this? This pulls this out, and this is what counterbalance slides up and down on. Okay, so now we should be able to get it out of our way to get this crankshaft unbolted. All right, there's that one. I guess it's a 13 mil. I'll be right back. I'm going to grab a wrench. All right, so we're going to make sure that that is the right size. This is a 13 mil wrench. And I think that's a little bit big. Let's try it. 1/2 inch. Come on. They don't give you any room to get on this. Wonder if we can't get a socket in there. All right, so that's the 12. So let's try an 11. Oh, sorry, actually. That was a 13 mil on that socket, or on that ratchet. All right. All right, now let's try spin the crank, get up to the top. Oh yeah, just enough room. Okay, see, there's just enough room to get the socket in here and get it on there and break it loose. Now it should just spin out with your fingers here, but it's not easy to get in there. Don't worry, if you don't have the time to watch this live, I will be taking this video, the live version here, and shortening it up, making it a little quicker for you to follow. There we go. This is one of the rod bolts. Now everything will be cleaned before we put it back together, right? We don't want any dirt or debris in here. Oh, and these are those tappets I was telling you about earlier. See? This part rides on the face of the camshaft. You can see. And what's kind of cool is if you look, you'll see where these actually rotate as they're going up and down. They spin. But this one's got a little bit of funny wear. How's this one look? Yeah, this one's got some wear here as well. And then on the face, you can see how it's a circular motion. That's because these actually spin, like I was saying, as it goes up and down. Need them. So anyone got any big plans for the holiday? Come on. In like 2 minutes of just unscrewing 2 bolts. That's the other rod bolt. Now we're going to just kind of tap it a little bit. And I should have this on here. It doesn't look like I do right this second. All right. Okay, now let's look at this. Now, unlike automotive, these do not have bearings. This cap is the bearing. You can see we got some scratches in there. You can't feel them with your fingers. This engine was not knocking to begin with, so we're going to not worry about that. To replace those bearings, you literally have to replace the whole connecting rod. Come on, spin out of the way. There we go. Drop down. All right, now we're ready to pull the piston out. So we're going to reach in here, grab this rod, kind of push it up. And we might need a little bit of help with that. Oh! Oh, shit. All right, so I can see the problem right now, right? I'm gonna clean this up. Now you see how this ring squishes in and out nice and easy, but you see how the other side's not coming out? And then you see this top ring is just stuck in. It doesn't squish. And then also the oil rings are pretty much just stuck compressed. But you see all these scratches here? And then the scratches here. Okay. We'll look at this, inspect this rod bearing surface. Now you don't want to touch these supposedly with your bare hands. I run my fingernail across. I can feel a couple of the grooves there, but we don't have a new one. They don't want to replace this anyway, so we're going to go ahead and let her fly. Ideally, we would be replacing the rod as well. We want to, let's get this connecting rod out of the way. Now we want to inspect this crank journal. Basically the same way. Run your fingers up and down. Look at it for any kind of bluing. Can you guys see that in there? See how it's nice and shiny and bright? There's no blue on it. Okay, that's a great sign. Now this is a pressure-fed oiling system. Okay, so it doesn't rely on a dipper like some, Briggs, Kohler, Tecumseh. They have a little finger that sticks down off the rod here, and it scoops the oil up and slings it around in there. This actually has a pressurized oiling system, goes through the crankshaft. All right, so now we're going to tip it up and take a look. Show some rags down in here. Take a look at this bore. We want to take a rag, wipe it up. What we want to find out is there any lip up here? Right up here on the edge? Use your fingernail. If there's a lip, she needs to be bored out. If there's no lip, we can just hone it. Now, what you don't want to see is you don't want to put your finger in here and see a reflection of your finger. Sorry, let me get her slid back here so you guys can see in here. Okay. Just determining. It's looking like there's a little bit of wear here and a little bit of wear up there. So we're going to go ahead and hone it. When doing that, I like to put the crankshaft so that the journal's up here and the weights are down at the bottom, right? Gives us the most clearance to get in there. All right, let me go grab my hone. All right, so let's hope that this one will go big enough because my big hone is gone, and it will. All right. Just have to tighten this down. That one's too small. Will it go any bigger? That is too small. Dang. Well, I would like to hone it, but we're not going to be honing it. No idea where my honer went. Okay, so I'll set this here. A little paper towel here. So now what we're going to do, go ahead and grab our new piston. We need to make sure that it is the same. And I'll put a link to this kit after the video is uploaded. And it is a dished piston. This one is a cast piston. I believe it's cast from the factory as well. Now, if this was a performance machine, like a race car or engine that I'm building for, you know, high RPMs, this texture, I would go and clean all that up, because each one of those little points could create hot spots. All right, so first off, I want to make sure she's about the same diameter, right? And it should be, because it's a standard diameter size piston. All right, make sure she goes in here, put it in. It's not a whole lot of side to side. Oh, put it in too far. All right. So what we're going to do, that's weird. This piston's installed with the arrow pointing towards the intake. Usually they go towards the exhaust on most engines. We're going to go ahead and put this one back in. This is a factory installed part, so we're going to go ahead and continue with what they do. Now these rings, they've got it installed at just the right angle that you can't get it out. So you got to get it over here, and you see, you just pop it out. I'm trying to do this so you guys can see. But you get it popped up and out, and then just work it around, and it'll come out. And then I take my pinky from the other side and push it through, right? And hopefully she'll go nice. This one is not wanting to go out this side. Okay, so we'll pull this side off. All right, and I got this pin out. I gotta get my pick out. Remember, this curved side on the rod goes down, the arrow goes back. All right, so the new piston, new rings, has a new pin. Now it's very important here that we use some type of assembly lube. I mean, You could use oil, right? The problem with oil is it doesn't stick. It doesn't have as good of a stickiness to it. Whereas assembly lube is, it's like, it's really tacky. All right, so first thing we're going to do is I want to put one of these rings in. Now, the direction that you put these in is super important. Don't put it in like this, because the piston moves this way, and this will compress and expand, and it could pop out. Always put it so the gap is either down or up. Okay, I'm going to try and put it in here so it's up. And it's always easier said than done to get these things in. I prefer the other style that's got a little curly cue on it where you can get your pliers in there on it. But we got to work with what we got. All right, come on. Oh, come on now. There we go. So I'm going to kind of spin it in and set it down so I can get some traction on it. All right, now got it in. It's not in the groove yet, but oh, come on. There we go. You want to make sure it's in that groove. And you heard it just snap in. You want it to be in that groove all the way around. We want this gap. See how it's kind of off? It's over here right now. We want to move that so that it is straight down or straight up. So come on now, cooperate. There we go. Nope, sorry about that. My phone disconnected for a second. Now this piston, we want pointed that way. So we got some assembly lube here. We want to coat this onto brand new bottle. Got to open it up. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and put a little bit of, it's green. I'm right. Used to the red kind. So we just kind of smear it on here. You can see it's kind of thick, like a syrup almost. Okay. We want to get it started, but we don't want to push it in too far because we got to get the piston in there. Remember, we want this pointed that way towards the intake, and this way. So now we go ahead and slide her in and push her all the way in, because now we got to get that other ring in there with our hands all lubed up. Grab a rag. Oh, Fantastic. All right. So again, we're gonna get this pin in here. We'll go ahead and go like this. We're gonna grab our pliers and we're gonna push in while twisting. Okay, so that's what we want to do. Push it in while twisting, and that'll give us the space that we need for it. Now, like I said on the other one, it's not all the way in. It's only partially in. What we need to do now is take our pick and just bring it on in. There we go. All right. We want to check and make sure it's all the way down in that groove. Okay. And I like to get my pick underneath it, try to pop it up. So our opening is over here. Let's try to move it just a little bit. I would much rather have it be over there. All right, well, looks like that's where she's staying. All right, so now what we got to do, get our rings. You know they're good quality when they come in bubble wrap. So we just got to get the rings all opened up here. If you got any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Got the laptop set up next to me so I can read what you're typing. So this is a Kawasaki FE290D out of a John Deere Gator that had low compression. Would idle fine, but it would not come up off RPMs. Put the compression gauge on here and we had 60 psi. And we need about 100 and 140 with a minimum of 120 psi. So these are the rings. We've got to be very careful when installing these because if we spread them too far, they can snap. Okay, so that's a compression ring. That's a compression ring. And this is 2 oil rings, but they're jammed together right now. So, come on, there we go. See, there's 2 of them there. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put one of the, don't throw stuff around now. We'll put one of the solid oil rings on. And I like to take it and get it in there like this and then just walk it around. And the oil rings are a lot more flexible than the compression ones. Okay, and then we need to find the end of this, okay? And this is what we need to do. We want them to overlap just by 1 because then it gives it a springiness to it and helps scrape the oil off. So we need that flat ring below this. So then we got to feed this in on top. Spin it right around. We want to make sure it stays just on top of that other ring that we just installed. Sometimes it's a little easier said than done, but come on. All the way around. Oh, come on. Why don't you guys tell me I had it in there on the wrong side on this side? There we go. Now we're cooking. Come on, get in there. This part is tedious. These oil rings, because they are like, it's like a spring. All right, I got a better idea. We're gonna go like this. And generally I like to do these flat ones first, but we're gonna go ahead and try to do the spring one first, so we have more room, and hopefully that'll be easier to sneak in there. There we go. All right, see how much easier that fell in there? But now we got to make sure. Okay, that's good. All right. Now let's go ahead and stick this in below it. See if we can't slide that in. There we go. Almost all the way. There we go. And then we got to get one more in on top of it. Come here. Where'd you go? Now this one goes on top of that spring in that same slot. So there's 3 rings that go in that bottom slot. And we want to turn the piston over so that we don't have the gaps meeting up. Now the rings will turn. They will rotate in the cylinder as they go. But we want to start off with a good oil seal. And hopefully they all turn in unison. But it will happen that they will line up and briefly let oil go by. All right, oil rings are done. Now this kit, you see how, let's see, it's just one, see it says 1R and 2R. So this ring without the coating on it, that one goes in the top one. So we want to grab the second one, and we want the letters facing up. Okay, I don't know if these ones are tapered, but some rings are tapered so they seal better. All right, and then I like to put one towards one pin. All right, get in there, and we're gonna have to kind of fiddle around with it, expand it a little bit. They make a tool, a piston ring expander, but every time I use them, I always expand it too far and the rings are shot. All right. There we go. And then the top ring, same thing, words up, but instead of it being on this side, I want to rotate it over, and we want to get it on this side. So if it's got 2 rings, we want them 180 degrees apart to make it so that I'll show you here in a second. Okay, so compression gases, boom, you get the explosion here. It has to go through this one, then it hits this solid piece. It has to go all the way around the other side of the piston to get through that crack. And then all the way around to wherever the oil ring gap is. So we always want to stagger them. Okay, but this is how she should look. And what we're going to do is we're going to coat this in assembly lube and put that in. Now this is, again, this is the old piston. You see how this spring is springy, right? Or this ring is springy, but it's jammed on this side here. And you see this top one, it's just solid. It's jammed in there. It's jammed in that groove. So this one's just junk. That's why we were low on compression. You can see I can maybe get it out, but it's just junk. So we're coating this with some assembly lube, get the rings good, okay? Now you notice on the inside of the piston here there's a couple holes. Those holes go through to the oil groove, and what that helps is it helps it when these rings are scraping the cylinder walls, it helps it scrape the oil and return it back, and it actually kind of makes it when the piston's going down, it squirts it in towards this rod to lubricate that rod. Or pin, sorry. This is a rod, this is a pin. Alright, so we got that. Now we're going to go ahead and coat my hand with some slime. We're going to coat the cylinder wall. Sorry, I can't move the camera. I'm all greasy right now. But I'm just massaging some of this in there. You can see how thick it is. It's nice because it just sticks to everything. And now that's going to make sure we don't have any unlubricated parts going back together. We want to make sure that everything is 100%. All right, so let's see, make sure you guys can see. Now, we want to normally use a ring compression tool. With these small engines, I just use my fingernail and push them in. Okay, so we get the piston in, right? We're going to want to turn the crankshaft so it lines up with the rod. All right. That is there. Now we're going to either use your fingernail or a pick and just kind of slowly work your way around while keeping just a steady amount of pressure on the piston to go in. And you'll feel it, it'll just all of a sudden she'll just drop a little bit. Now you don't want to be hitting this with a hammer right now, right? We just want constant pressure. And we're just working it past the oil rings right now. And trust me, with the spring compression tool, or a ring compression tool, it's way easier, way quicker. But I don't have one this size on hand. There we go. So now we're on to the first compression ring. Remember, we got those gaps, right? And we got to kind of spring it together. So what I like to do is get it in and start pushing it around while holding pressure on it. And yep, Same way we did the oil ones, just work your way around. Come on. Go in. Go, there's that spring or that ring. Now, like I said, much easier to use a proper tool, a ring compressor tool. I'm just showing you guys you can do this without. You just got to be super careful, right? Because we need to work this ring around, get it to compress, get it to go into its home. Alright, looks like we are in. So now we're gonna go ahead and turn the crank. Let me prop this back up on its side here, get rid of some trash. Alright, so now we're gonna tip her back up so you guys can see what's going on here. And let's move you a little bit. There you go. How's that? Alright, so this is the connecting rod, and we need to line it up with the crankshaft. Okay, and we got to kind of push the piston in as we're getting it here, right? Alright, now that's lined up. So you see this notch, how it's on the bottom edge, and then this one has a notch in the middle. That goes on the top, this one goes on the bottom, and that helps center this to make sure it's good. So we're gonna go ahead and put a little assembly lube on here. Smooth it around. Don't use your bare finger, it's not recommended for touching these surfaces. We also want to, if I can, squirt a little bit on this side because I forgot to when it was there. There we go. We'll let that run in. There we go. Good. We don't want anything to get damaged when we fire this thing up for the first time. So we're going to grab our rod bolts, which are these guys here. And we got to get our rod into here. Okay, get this rag out of here. Okay, got to get this rod in there. And you see how she just kind of went into place here? Now if there's a gap here, then it means that you don't have the cap on the right way. Here we gotta I gotta push this down. See, like if it looked like that, I don't want to install it upside down, but you get the idea. If you put it on backwards, it won't look right. Now it's very important that these bolts have oil on the threads, on the underside, otherwise they will not torque properly. I know, not a good view here yet, but you guys get a look at my hand for a couple minutes while I thread these in. I want to get them all the way in so I can use the crankshaft to turn this around. All right, because now we need to go up to the top, because that's how we get at this one. Okay, you see that gap there? We can close that up. Good. You guys see? Kinda. Right here's the rod. So we get our fingers in here and get this bolt started. And you want to tighten it as far as you can by hand. You know, just that way the cap isn't bouncing around. It's not bouncing around, scratching stuff. It shouldn't, but you know, just try to minimize it as much as possible. Now this is a Kawasaki FE290 out of a John Deere, what is that? John Deere Gator TS, two-wheel drive version. It's an older one, early 2000s, I believe. And it came in because of a running issue where it would idle and idle all day long, but the second you hit gas, it would just die. Just did not have enough compression to support bringing the RPMs up. Compression on this should be 140, and that's including the decompression valve being used while cranking. Alright, so I'm just going to snug it up with this. I will get the torque wrench out, but I got to look up the torque specs for it. Come on. Cooperate. There we go. Now these are usually torqued down in inch-pounds. We will see what the spec says. Right now I'm just hitting that other side there just to get them snug and snug. Let me know, do you guys prefer live videos, long form like this, or do you prefer the short, edited, upfront videos? All right, sorry about that. Looking for the torque wrench. Got my foot-pound one, but I don't have my inch-pound torque wrench. All right. Let's see. Just got to look up the specs here real quick. All right. Okay, so it is in foot-pounds, so we can use the bigger one. I mean, I guess we could have did the math anyway, but let me grab the bigger wrench here. Let's see. Size 12, right? All right, I'm back. I got the socket. All right, so the torque wrench we're using here is way overkill. It's a Matco torque wrench. Sorry about that, had to disappear, go find the socket. I was hoping for a medium depth socket, but that seemed to wander off. So it says 14 or 15 foot-pounds on these crank bolts, or not crank bolts, the rod bolts. So we're gonna go ahead and get access to this one. Come on. Man. Just don't have room. Maybe we can fit it in there like that. All right. So we can get to the lower one. That's 15 right there. I like to hit it at least twice. And then we're gonna try and roll her up to the top. Come on. So it's literally right by my finger here, but it is still farther back so I can get the whole tool in there. All right. So okay. So we got that one torqued. Then we're gonna go back and hit the other one just to make sure. Look at that, she still rotates nice. Now it's gonna rotate harder than it did originally because we now have good rings on there. Oh yeah, no extra. All right, we're good. We're good there. Now if you got a torque wrench like these, don't ever bring them down to 0. Bring them down to like 5-10 pounds. I usually leave mine sit right at 10. And that'll help it stay calibrated. Now when I first started using torque wrenches, like, oh, I don't know, 20 years ago in the automotive field, that very torque wrench went out of calibration and I actually spun off head bolts. That was not a very fun day. So, now, we gotta get new gloves because the old one's torn. We're gonna clean up this gaskets material. I'm gonna grab a couple rags and they're gonna just get put in here, kind of help catch the material. And then we're still going to spray it all out afterwards. This is the scraper I use. There's another brand called Super Scraper. It's a tungsten carbide scraper. They are the best for scraping gaskets. And I try to, you know, scrape away from the block, or, you know, from the open case. Go. It's way nicer to use than a razor blade. See? Now this one is, I don't know, what's that, an inch and a quarter, inch and a half, something like that wide. I find that it works really well. It's wide enough where if you're doing head gaskets on like a V8, doesn't take you days and days to scrape it off. But narrow enough where if you have an engine like this, you can use it on this. Alright, let's get this out of here if we can. Ooh. Alright, that's gonna stay. Okay. All right. Okay, now we're gonna spray this rag with some brake parts cleaner. Just go around this edge, make sure there's no debris. All right, and then we're gonna go ahead and take this out. Then I like to take a flashlight, shine it around in there just to make sure there's no bits and pieces. See, like we got this, made its way in there. We don't want any dirt and debris in there. Looks like we got some sitting over there. All right, I'm gonna tip it on its side here, rinse it off on the edge of the bench so it can run out. Here. All right. Got a collection of paper towels here soaking up the residual oil that didn't drain out. Oh, hold on, I'm gonna change my light out on my battery on the light. Come on. There we go. Be back in just a second here. All right, there we go. Now we got some light. All right, so we're gonna take one of our rags. We're gonna clean up the tappets. It's got a little brake cleaner on it. Get inside the little piece here, okay? And then here, let's make sure that the gasket's okay. All right, so we're gonna take this tappet and we're gonna go ahead and put a little bit of schmoo on here, a little bit in the end here. Okay, spread it around so it's coated, and then go down here and put it in. Oh. Put it in its boss. There we go. Push it all the way in. It'll kind of stick because of the assembly lube. Go ahead and do the same with this one. Clean it out. Get the tip cleaned out. Clean off the surface. Little assembly lube there, some there. All right. And go ahead and coat it. Good. Then push it all the way up. Having them all the way in here like this is going to make it easier putting the camshaft back in. Okay? Alright, so we want to clean up this piece. Get this surface all clean. And this seals with an O-ring. Yep, alright. So we want to get our O-ring land in here, nice and clean, just wipe it out. We need to get the new O-ring, which is in our gasket kit. Here's our seals. Well, it was supposed to come with the new O-ring. Shoot. Alright, so we're going to have to reuse that O-ring. That's unfortunate. Dang it. I did not want to reuse the O-ring. Alright, so be careful. You don't want to get brake cleaner on the O-ring. So you want to clean this O-ring off. Just wipe it, dry rag. We're going to go ahead and put it on to here. Okay. Get it all the way down. I personally like to put a little bit of lube on the O-rings, right? Because that's going to help it slide into place better. This thing also needs lube because this is what, you can see that wear, this is what the balance weight rides on. So go ahead and get that all coated. Good. Now this goes in through this hole, and then you got to line up the balance shaft so it can receive it. And then there's 4 nuts that go on here. There's 4 studs that stick out. There we go. Here's the 4 nuts. They're the shoulder nuts. I think they're 10 mils. And I like to tighten these down in an X pattern, so do the ones straight across from each other. You guys can't even see what I'm doing here. Here, let's see. See, right here? These 4. Come on. I always start them by hand. I'm going to run them down with the impact gun. Obviously, I'm not going to just sit here and just crank on them. Just going to quick snug them up. Just snug them up. It's an O-ring seal, so it's not like you got to keep super amount of pressure on there. Okay, so we're good here. Next thing we're going to do is get you guys back up to normal height here. There is a mark on this gear here. Okay, so we want that to point towards, come on, point towards the camshaft. And then there should be a mark on the camshaft as well to match. Yep. So right here there is a dot. Let's see. There we go. See that dot right there between the teeth? And you see how this one's lined up on the tip of a tooth? Okay? So you want to make sure that lines up there. So we're going to go ahead and lubricate this bearing, you know, right here where this bushing is down in here. And then we're going to go ahead and put some on the cam lobes, right? So we don't want those to be dry. All right. And then there's that dot. We need to take this, get this up in there. Okay, we gotta turn the crank a little more. Probably about there. Our dot's here. Oh, that's one tooth off. That's still one tooth off. Come on, come on, come up. Lay nice. There we go. So now we'll turn these in together. Now you see that dot and that dot, they line up. So we're good. We look down underneath here and we can see that the camshaft is nice and bottomed out. Okay. So we're going to start off with our shim. This is the factory shim that comes with it. We may or may not need to add more or take this out, okay? And that goes here, right? We want to, just because, right? We don't want it to start up dry. So we're just gonna put that on there like this, squish it around a little bit, add a little bit more to this side because this side's gonna be against the case. All right. Now we need to set this aside a little bit and address our side cover. Okay. Here's the side cover. Again, this is the governor. So what this does is, you can see centrifugal force spins it out, and that's what this little piston in the middle comes up, pushes on your governor rod. Okay, you want to make sure that this is all solid. We don't want to see any cracks in this plastic. We don't want any of that. No damage, because that'll cause problems and come apart inside the engine. We're going to try and peel up as much of this gasket as we can. Don't mean to bore you to death here, but you know, it's kind of like watching paint dry. Cleaning up gaskets. Dang it. Now they usually stick really good around the bolt holes, right? Because that's where all the pressure, most of the pressure is. But if we can peel it up without, you know, as much as we can in one go, that's the best. All right, so let's go ahead and get the scraper out. You gotta love that noise. Makes me cringe every time I do it. Now again, this is a tungsten carbide scraper. See how easy that is? Way better than a razor blade. And they're cheap. This thing was like, I don't know, 20, 25 bucks. What's nice too is if there's any burrs, this will help remove the burrs. And see, it just shaves that old gasket right down. Almost there. All right. Now you got to remember, this is not rocket science. It's just a lawnmower engine. I mean, it's not, this one's not a lawnmower, but you know what I mean. Just make it as clean as you can. And as long as you run your finger over it and it feels smooth, it will not leak. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse this out now. Over my garbage can here. Okay. So you got that rinsed out. Oh, we want to blast out where the seal is because we're going to go ahead and pop that seal out, put a new one in. We want to wipe this out, get any dirt and debris out of there that we can. Now you got this gear here, so what I do is arrange my paper towels so that it's not directly on metal, and I let that gear hang off, okay? While I go ahead and get in here and pop this seal out. First off, we want to make sure that this kit has the new one, that's the right one. It looks like it's going to be this guy. It's crazy that they give me valve guides, seals, but they don't give me that one O-ring. Oh, good thing I don't need those. Those are already new. All right. Here's the seal. Spring side always goes towards the pressure, towards the oil, right? All right, so that's going to be perfect. So we're going to set that over there. We need to pop this one out. I like using my favorite screwdriver, you know, and just kind of lever it out. See? Now this seal was still good. It was not leaking. But we don't want to leave it in there, right? We already got it out. Let's go ahead and put a new seal in. So so he doesn't have problems, you know, a year or two down the road. So I want to clean this out. Nice, clean. This is your outside bearing. Okay. Now the old seal was just under flush, so we want to make the new seal the same. I need to go grab a socket that is this size. Tap that in. All right, so I grabbed a socket here. And this will be, you can see I've used this to put seals in many times. It's just a little bit smaller than the diameter of the seal. So we're going to go ahead and do this, put it in there, and just tap it in by hand. Don't hit it hard, just let it go nicely. Check on it often. See, we're low here and we're high here. So we want to put that corner in a little bit. So we want it all straight. All right. We're a little high on this side. There we go. Okay, now that's pretty straight. Maybe just a little bit high on this side. Yeah, we're good. Okay, now you'll notice that there's a gap between this seal and the bearing, and you want that. Did I just do all that off camera? Sorry about that, people. But right here, you want this gap between the bearing and the seal, because that allows oil to get to the bearing, hit the seal, bounce back, and just run off, right? All right, now we're ready to put this side cover on. So we're going to go ahead and drag this engine back here. All right, so we got this one, and then the other one's right here. We just want to make sure that this is your governor lever. You can see how it when you push on it, it moves that. Okay, so you don't want this like pointed straight up. You just want it right where it's at, right there. If it moves more than that, it means you probably lost the spring. And you should put the spring on before you do this, because it'll help hold the lever back in. Grabbing the gasket here. Okay, it is a paper gasket, and look at that. Perfect. Now, if only I could just get this out. Let me see if I can't get it out with a different pair of pliers here. It'd be nice to have that in there to help hold that gasket. All right, so it's not coming out. Anyway, we want to put this gasket on dry. Okay, we don't want any sealer on it. We don't want any RTV on there. We do want to lube this up though. And reason being we want to lube this up is for that seal to slide down without flipping inside out. Okay, so we get that in there. Gotta help that seal around just to make sure. Good, good, good. All right. Now, what we need all these pieces to go in nicely together. Go. Good. Oh. Went just a little too far and pinched the gasket, so we got to go up just a hair. There we go. We're going to put the screws in just to help guide it down straight and hold that gasket in place. Now this is an aftermarket kit. This is not one from Kawasaki. Okay, so keep that in mind. There we go. All right, and then we just keep tapping her down, nice and easy. You hear how that sound changed? That's because we're bottomed out now. What hangs you up are these two pins. The guides, dowels, whatever you want to call them. All right, these side cover bolts get tightened down to 15 foot-pounds. What we want to do, just run them down with the impact gun. We'll hit them down. We'll hit them with the torque wrench here in just a minute. And then I usually go over them twice, just to make sure everything is torqued right. And bottomed out because, you know, when it's new, it's going together. It's different than when it's used. So we're going to go ahead and set our torque wrench up. Let's see, foot-pounds. What did I say? I think I said 15, but it's 18 is what the foot-pounds are. So there's 16, 17, 18 foot-pounds. So we're going to go ahead and start over here by one of the dowels, okay? And then we're going to jump straight across by the bolt next to the other dowel. Okay? And let's see, was it this one? Did I do this one? Alright, so I get those, and then I just go around the circle. Now, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to do a star pattern on this, but the only thing that hangs you up is those two dowels. So I do those first, then I go down and I do everything else. Okay, we hit the dowel one again. Good. Good. If you don't have a torque wrench, recommend picking one up. They're nice to have. You know, this side cover, do I need to use it? No. But it is nice to know that it's torqued to what they say it should be at. And we don't have to deal with it. You know, we don't have to deal with mistakes from over torquing it and stripping stuff out. Come on now. All right. She's all torqued. So then I bring my torque wrench and I drop it back down to 10 foot-pounds. If you have a clicky torque wrench, put it back down to its lowest, either 5 or 10 foot-pounds, and that'll stop it from going out of calibration. What is wrong with this? There we go. All right. All right, so now we're done with that. We need to get back to this. All right. Now we're going to be putting in a new head gasket. Here's the old one, not in terrible shape, but since we got the new one, we're going to put new ones in. Here's our new valve cover gasket. We don't need that yet, but here's the new head gasket, okay? And you remember we took out these dowels, okay? So what we're gonna do, we're gonna clean those up and then put them in right here and right here. We gotta make sure that they're in all the way, right? Because we don't want that interfering with our ability to torque anything. There we go. That is what is going to hold our head gasket on. Let's see. This looks like how we want it. Okay. All right, cylinder head bolts are going to be 18 pounds again. Now, I prefer to put the rods back in as I'm putting the head in. That way I don't have to take the rockers off. We're gonna have to adjust them regardless because we just changed everything. Right? New gasket changes the height. And where is it? There it is. Here's our head. See these rocker assemblies? They kind of suck to take apart. You got to take this clip out, push the pin out from one side. You know, they're not pleasant. So what I do, we go ahead, make sure this head is all cleaned up. We don't want anything. Should feel smooth to the touch. Now, if it was an automotive head, I would definitely be sending it out, you know, for machining. But this is not an automotive head. Alright, get the rockers down. You guys can't even see what I'm doing. Let's get it so you can. So what I'm doing is I'm looking down these holes here, trying to line the rockers up. And then I will take it and line it up on the dowels. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to put up, oops, geez, knocking everything around. So now we're going to put the head bolts in. Come on. Head bolts are these 6 bolts. That's only 5 of them. Oh, here's the 6th one. So we're just going to snug them up. And we're not putting any torque to them. We're just snugging them up, and then we'll torque them with the torque wrench. Alright, we're going to grab our torque wrench. We are going to go to, let's see, foot-pounds. We need to run it up to, there's 15, 16, 17, 18. Alright. Now there's a myth out there that you need to add an extra foot-pound per inch of extension, okay? That makes no sense. So even if this twists, it's still putting that amount of torque at the end, even if the extension has some twist in it. The end result, the transferred energy is still the same. So we want to go ahead and run her up to 18. Okay, we want to do the center two straight across from each other. Do the top one, then do the bottom one. Okay, and then I usually go top left, basically the exhaust side. Then I go over here to the opposite corner. So bottom right on the intake, then I go top right on the intake. And then bottom left by the exhaust. Alright, so then I just go in a circle, just check that they all click. There we go. Good. Good. There we go. Oh, come on now. Okay. So we're good with the head gasket. And we're going to bring torque wrench back down to 15. We're going to go down to 10 foot-pounds. Always return your torque wrench back down low. That's going to save you in the long run from having to have it recalibrated. So here's the old head gasket. We'll toss that now. So now we want to reinstall the valve cover. Here's the valve cover. We want to take this old gasket off. Now this gasket, I mean, if you had to in a pinch, you could reuse this, okay? It's still pliable. It'll still probably seal. But we have a new one, so we want to go ahead and put that on anyway. Because we don't want any oil leaks, right? We don't want to have to pull this out and do it all over again. Oh, I suppose we should, actually we should adjust the valves. Okay, so we need what are called feeler gauges, and we need, generally 4 or 5 thousandths are good. So we're going to go ahead and feel here. We got a little bit of a resistance, that's good. This one's engaged. Let's see if that is because don't have a good way to turn this. I'm just trying to think here. We don't want to mar the crankshaft, you know? So maybe we'll go like this and then use this, because it's a tapered fit. It's a tapered crankshaft. It's not just a flat one, you know. So let's use a rag, and we're going to, I need to adjust this bigger. There we go. All right. So I don't think we're turning. I think we're just sliding. I do believe we're going to have to go back in and take that shim out. But that's all right. I'll do that off camera. Let me just check here. Just make sure. I need clutch points. So what I'm doing here is I'm threading the clutch bolt in, and that's going to allow me to pull the crank side to side. And I should have a couple thousandths, and I have nothing. That's why I can't turn it. So I'm going to have to loosen this up. This new gasket is thinner than the old one, so I'm going to take that shim out of there, and we'll go from there. Anyway, you guys, thanks for watching.